Some reaction to what you just heard from Mr. Menzies on a couple of things. Obviously, the pool pensions that we just talked about and the votes coming up. Peggy Nash is the NDP finance critic. Scott Bryson is the Liberal finance critic. Welcome, both of you. Peggy Nash, your first reaction. Mr. Menzies talking about what just passed, the pool pensions, saying this is a critical step to help the 60% of Canadians in the workforce that don't have any coverage now. What's your reaction to that?
Well, Evan, you really hit on the key points there. The fact that it's a voluntary program, the fact that only the employee contributes. Of course, some employers are enthusiastic about this because it's no cost to them. It's only the employee who contributes. We have a system now that is mandatory, that is a defined benefit, it is indexed to inflation, and wherever you work anywhere in Canada, you are entitled to that benefit. It is completely portable, and that is the Canada and the Quebec pension plan. And, you know, the government at one point looked as though they might be leaning towards improving CPP, QPP, and we're speaking seemingly in favor of it, and some of the provinces were encouraged and spoke in favor. But then the government changed dramatically, came forward with this private sector solution. We have no idea what it's going to cost, and basically told the provinces this is the direction we're going. And, you know, some are more enthusiastic than others. I think what we're going to see is in some places, some people will voluntarily become involved in this program, but like with RRSPs, if it's discretionary and if people feel that the employer is not making a contribution, I think we'll see that most people will not take advantage of it. And part of our concern, Evan, is that it gives the illusion that they're taking action on retirement security, when I really don't think this is much of a step forward.
We don't know what the pickup will be, which is this notion of mandatory versus voluntary. Scott Bryson, I want your view on this. Ted Menzies is saying one of the steps that prevent us from making it mandatory, one of the steps that prevent the government, he argues, from changing CPP, is that those are provincial jurisdiction. So they're saying they have to cut something down the middle to extend coverage without getting bogged down in constitutional issues with the provinces. What's your view?
Well, it would help if the federal government actually met with provincial governments from time to time in Canada. That used to be the way we dealt with issues like this and sought and achieved common ground. But actually, the government is overselling what the PRPP plan will actually accomplish. It is a modest step. It is an increase, or rather a new arrow in the quiver for Canadians looking for retirement security options. But it's been grossly oversold by the government. The minister, Mr. Menzies, just spoke about it, and he described it as being a lot more prudentially strong than other retirement plans. And the reality is, because of the fact that it is not a defined benefit plan, it's only defined contribution, it will suffer the same kinds of ups and downs and market fluctuations that any other savings plan will have.
He said the Liberals supported it.
Well, we do.
Right.
It is an improvement, but we've been clear that we would also offer, and the Liberal proposal is for a voluntary supplemental CPP, which individual Canadian workers and their employers could co-invest in on behalf of the worker. And ultimately, it would give Canadians on a voluntary basis access to a defined benefit plan, which is the CPP, and a plan that has a very low cost structure and is well diversified across asset class and sector and geography. But finally, it would help keep the costs lower for the PRPP plans, because it would provide some competition. So I think that would be a win-win.
All right. That's the pool pension issue, and Ted Menzies, and we're getting your reaction. Just very quickly as we go, we're heading towards some marathon votes on this omnibus bill. Peggy Nash, you heard Ted Menzies say, look, this is the government's prerogative, this is the agenda they set, this is why they want to pass all these. Again, the reaction, clearly there'll be a series of about 20-odd hours of votes on this, but likely it passes in the end. Do you think the government is abusing their mandate, or are they, as Ted Menzies saying, simply doing, it's perfectly legal, it's their agenda, they can do this?
You know, Evan, one clause in this bill was 67 pages long, and it flew by. We had basically on average 4 minutes to be able to examine each of the clauses in this budget bill. And, you know, we went from studying CSIS oversight to fish allocations to the RCMP to the Labour Code. Clearly, many of the provisions in this bill should have been carved out and studied separately. Let me just give you one other example. Old age security. This is a major change. The age being raised from 65 to 67. The government feels strongly about it. It's going to impact all Canadians. Let's have a broad public debate. Where's the fire? It's not going to take effect for more than a decade. So carve that out. Let's have a good debate and discussion and make sure that this is the right direction. We don't think so. EI, employment insurance, I could say the same thing. You know, we proposed a number of amendments at the committee because we did hear testimony that said to us on a number of occasions, watch out. I don't think you really understand
to be
the
fair,
impact of what you're doing here.
Scott Bryson, to be fair, you know, there is legitimate points to say that there hasn't been enough debate on some of these issues. Mind you, the government says if we strip these out, the Liberals and the NDP won't support it anyway. So,
well,
so what's the purpose of doing it?
Respectfully, that's bunk. You know, and that argument is absolute bunk. If you either respect Parliament and the members of Parliament and the people who elect them, i.e. Canadians, or you don't. And you can't have this kind of omnibus bill, which this is unprecedented to have.
You know, the Liberals have them too.
There has never been the breadth of legislative or diversity within the legislation that exists in this piece of legislation. And frankly, some people talk about the length of the bill. It's not really the length of the bill in this case. It's the breadth. It's the ground it covers. And frankly, there are some members of Parliament who serve on specific committees who have a particular area of expertise, for instance, on the environment or on fisheries or on human resources and EI and those issues. Those are the committees where we should be studying those areas, and ultimately we should be able to vote on them independently. And the idea that we're going to vote against, I mean, Ted Menzies just mentioned that we actually supported, you know, with some reservation, the PRPP plan because we think it's a slight improvement. We did that, and so the idea that opposition parties can't support government legislation when we see some merit to it is false. Yesterday on a trade issue, I believe the NDP supported the Jordan-Canada Free Trade Agreement. You know, so this is silly, the argument that
sometimes
we can't...
Unfortunately,
right? So that would be
you do.
Unfortunately, we don't have a marathon debate tonight, but we will have that tomorrow.
Stay tuned.
And we'll have it. Just stay tuned indeed. NDP finance critic Peggy Nash and Liberal finance critic Scott Bryson. Just to clarify what Mr. Bryson's just talking about, the committee that heard a lot of these was just the Finance Committee. And Mr. Bryson's saying there's other committees, just so everyone appreciates that. Both of you, thanks so much. Interesting debate. We'll be watching how this unfolds.